Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Calling all cars, attention all cars, broadcast 84, regarding a train robbery at Noble. The Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office requests all cars to watch for a suspect described as thin, height 5 feet 10 inches, age 43, has sparse hair, and wears glasses. That's all.
Firecracker time. Look out. Here goes one. Oh, too bad. That one was a dud. Light another one, Brody. There. That firecracker exploded into thin air. Not a trace of it left. Just like Rio Grande cracked gasoline explodes in your motor. All power, no waste. But cut-price, uncracked gasoline is like the dud firecracker because it only partly explodes. The wasted, unburned gasoline runs down your cylinder walls, ruining your oil seal, diluting your crankcase oil, so it's often useless in only 200 miles. You certainly don't save money using cut-price gasoline when a large part of every gallon goes to waste. Your motor needs complete explosions. That's why every automobile engine thrives on Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Each drop burns completely. There are no unburned leftovers to ruin your oil. Rio Grande puts gasoline through the newest, costliest, and most advanced refining process known to the petroleum industry, just to ensure that every drop will burn completely, so no power will be wasted. That's why your car speeds up on Rio Grande cracked, because you get full force, full power explosions, instead of the half-hearted explosions of uncracked gasoline. That's why the cars that must have the finest gasoline, police cars, fire engines, ambulances, specify Rio Grande cracked more than any other brand. That goes for you, too. It costs you less per mile to drive with Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to announce that the part of Inspector Austin in tonight's broadcast will be played by Wallace Ford, motion picture star now appearing in the RKO production The Informer, and the Columbia offering The Whole Town's Talking. And now it is our great pleasure to present Sheriff John Miller of Contra Costa County, who will speak to you from the studios of KFRC in San Francisco.
Good evening. Only the most desperate and hardened criminals would dare to hold up a mail train, because they know that not only will the sheriff's forces and local police be hot on their trail, but also the federal G-men, who will never give up until the robbers are punished. When our office received the flash that the mails had been robbed, our men devoted their entire energies to tracing the bandits. All clues unearthed by our men were turned over to the G-man assigned by the postal authorities, and our deputies worked with him until the entire gang was accounted for. G-men can't work alone. They need the manpower and the knowledge of local police and sheriff's forces. We are not interested in glory. We want only to see lawbreakers captured. And my deputies are instructed to work just as hard on police and federal cases as on our own problems. In the true story that follows, you will see how many different law enforcement agencies were needed to bring all members of the robber gang to justice. On with the show.
It is mid-morning of November 7th, 1930. Southern Pacific's train number 36, bound for Stockton and Sacramento, has just left Berkeley. And engineer R.E. Lemery and fireman F.E. O'Brien are setting down to an uneventful run.
Steam okay?
Sure. Take it easy.
Thanks. Are we on time?
Right on the tick. Ever seen me when I wasn't on time?
Oh, come to think of it, I haven't.
Got to be on time today. We're carrying the payroll to the steel mills at Pittsburgh.
Yeah?
Sure. If we don't get in on time, those guys won't get their pay envelopes.
Well, we can't let that happen.
No, I'll say we can't.
All right, you guys. Come in this train now. Hey, what
Well, who are you?
Stick up. Get your hand away from that brake lever. Keep it rolling. I'll tell you when to stop.
What's the big idea?
I guess you know what you're carrying on this train.
Passengers, that's all.
Yeah? Well, I know different. How far are we from Noble?
You mean that little flag stop?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, about a quarter of a mile.
All right, slow her down. Now listen, there's a cord stretched between two stakes along the side of the track. You see it?
Yeah?
Okay, stop this thing so that the cab is opposite the end stake.
What's the idea?
Don't argue. Put on your brakes. Easy now. We're passing the cord. Now, pull her up. Okay, you guys, get down.
Hey, what's the idea of that cord business?
That measures the distance from the engine to the mail car. You see why? The boys are setting up the machine gun on that flat car right opposite the mail car.
You guys sure had this planned, didn't you?
Sure we did. Now get over there to that station. Okay, Frank, I got the engine crew.
Attaboy.
Here comes the conductor. You take care of him.
Don't worry, I will.
Hey, Lemery, what's the idea of stopping here?
Well, can't you see it?
Shut up, you!
All right, conductor, up your hands. Frisky, Eddie.
Okay.
Nothing on him. Tommy, all right, boys?
All set.
Hey, look here. You'd better not go through with this.
Why not?
This is dangerous business.
Well, we're prepared for it. Your old train's covered with my men. We're not taking any chances. Now you're going to help me open that mail car.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Hey, listen,
Now
you
shut
can't
up
get
and
away
get
with
around
it.
in front of me here.
Let me alone.
You'll make a nice bulletproof vest. Now we'll wake up that mail clerk. Fire a slug into the door of that car, Eddie.
Okay.
What's the big idea?
Drop that gun, mister.
I will not.
If you don't, I'll let you have
Hey,
it.
don't shoot, Mac. You can't hit him without killing me.
Now drop that gun. There, that's better. Okay, now open up the car. Open it up. Listen, mister, we don't want to bump anybody off. But if you don't get into line, we'll have to. We got a dozen sticks of dynamite here, and we'll blow up the car and you in it, unless you open up.
You better open up, Mac. We ain't got a chance.
Yes, you're right, Steve.
All right, Eddie. Take this conductor over to the station with the other two.
Okay.
I'm going to get the stuff. Where's the rest of the money bags?
Here you are.
Stuff them into one sack.
Okay.
Now, where's that bank stuff?
What bank stuff?
You know what bank stuff, that payroll shipment.
I haven't any payroll shipment.
Listen, do you think we'd go into this without knowing what we're doing? You're carrying the payroll to the steel mills in Pittsburgh. Now, where is it?
I don't know anything about it.
No?
No.
Then I'll find it myself. Hiding this stuff on me, huh? I'll blow your lousy train up for a trick like this. Think you can pull a fast one on me, do you? Oh, here it is. Listen, mister, if I gave you what's coming to you, I'd bump you off with that little trick. But I'll give you one more chance. Get down to the other end of the car.
Oh, please don't do anything to me. I was only doing my duty.
Shut up and get down there. I'll stand there for 5 minutes with your face to the wall. If you stick your head out of this door, my chopper will blow it off. All right, Eddie, I got everything. Give the boys the signal.
Okay, boys, scram.
Help me get this sack into the car.
Okay. Don't you want to tie up these guys?
Now, let them go. By the time they get to the next station, we'll be out of the heat.
You get everything, Frank?
Everything.
Good.
Come on, stuff that tomcat in there. Get in, Eddie. Everybody here?
Yeah, all accounted for.
All right, let's go then.
It is 10 minutes before the flustered train crew gets number 36 to Sedge, where the alarm is sounded. And by the time the train reaches Stockton, Postal Inspectors Austin and Chance have arrived there by plane and quickly question the hold-up victims. Engineer Lemery has the most important bit of information.
Oh, Mr. Lemery, what do these men look like?
Well, it's hard to say. They all wore overalls and masks over their faces.
You say they made their escape by automobile?
Yes.
I don't suppose you were able to get the license number of the car.
Yes, I did notice it.
You did? What was it?
Let me see. 7W6549. Yeah, that's right. The 7W6549.
7W6549. Call the Motor Vehicle Bureau at Sacramento right away, Austin, and see who that license is registered to.
And a half hour later, in the little town of Oakland, an officer is questioning the postmistress.
Why, yes. That's my license number.
Where is your car?
Oh, I wish I knew. It was stolen last night.
Stolen? Where?
I was visiting in Oakland. I left it in a garage at Harrison and 14th Street. And about midnight...
The investigation reverses to Oakland police, who quickly visit the garage man at Harrison and 14th.
You were on duty last night?
Yes, sir.
Know anything about a car being stolen out
Why,
there?
yes. I was alone about midnight when two men came in. One of them pulled a gun on me, and the other one started the Buick and drove it out here by the office. And the guy with the gun jumped on the running board and they drove off.
What did these men look like?
Well, I couldn't tell. They wore overalls and masks.
In possession of all the available immediate clues, postal inspectors hold council of war with the chief of the Oakland Police Department.
Well, Chief, that stolen car clue didn't help much, did it?
No. These men were certainly careful. Their overalls and masks.
Well, here's all we know. They used a stolen car, which they abandoned at Euclid Avenue and Virginia Street, and they left the empty mail sack at the Clear Electric Depot. Now, where do we go from here?
There's one thing you gentlemen have forgotten.
What's that?
Modus operandi.
How do you mean?
Well, sometimes as important as the clue. I've been checking back on previous robberies, such as the McAvoy train robbery last year, the Fresno winery robbery in 1928. They were both pulled with the same systematic procedure. Several men were involved. Machine guns and sawed-off shotguns were used. Everything clicked off with rehearsed perfection.
But these crimes are unsolved.
Not completely. We've been working on them. We have reason to believe that they involve an ex-con by the name of Frank Smith. Did time for a bank robbery in Santa Clara back in 1909.
Okay, bring Smith in and let's question him.
Yeah, first we have to locate him. Hello?
Garrett speaking, Chief. Just got a report that I think you should know about.
What is it?
A chambermaid at the Los Feliz Hotel found a package containing $195 half dollars in the dresser drawer this morning.
Who's in the room?
It was registered to an E.R. Sherwood, but he checked out in a hurry this morning.
Get on there right away.
Yes, sir.
$195 half dollars left in the dresser drawer at the Los Feliz Hotel.
That might be part of the stuff. Let's see. They got $50,000 in bills and $3,700 in silver. $500 of that was in half dollars.
Yeah, leave it to a crook to make a stupid mistake like that.
Of course, it might not have anything to do with our case.
Yeah, we'll know pretty soon. Garrett's gone down to question the hotel employees.
Now, Mr. Johnson, you say the man who occupied the room where the money was found registered as E.R. Sherwood?
That's right.
What else do you know about him?
Nothing much. He was here for 2 days this time.
You mean he stopped here before?
Oh, yes, several times.
You know anyone he associated with?
Why, yes. He's quite friendly with the Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. Frank P. Ellis, I believe their name is. They drive a blue coupe, as I remember.
Frank P. Ellis. Drive a blue coupe?
Yes.
You know where Mr. Ellis lives?
No, I don't.
What else do you know about this man?
Well, that's about all. Oh, yes. One of the bellboys ran an errand for him just as he left.
Let me talk to him.
Just a minute.
Front? Yes, sir.
Harry, you ran an errand for a Mr. Sherwood, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Will you tell this gentleman about it?
Well, Mr. Sherwood asked me to express a package for him.
A package? What kind of a package?
Well, it was small and sort of heavy.
Small and sort of heavy. Sounds like more silver, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, it does.
Where was the package going?
To Seattle.
What address?
Let me see. I got it here somewhere on a piece of paper. Yeah, here it is. R.W. Carlton, Olive Tower Apartment, Seattle.
Well, that's fine. We'll put the Seattle police on this right away.
Seattle police investigate Mr. Carlton of the Olive Tower Apartments, only to find that he had checked out that morning just after Sherwood arrived. Meanwhile, Oakland police work on the Ellis angle of the case.
Chief, this may be a long shot, but I've got a hunch that this man Ellis who visited Sherwood at the hotel is the same fellow who pulled that post office holdup in Tracy 2 years ago.
Yes? Why?
Well, here's the silly part of my hunch. Both men drove a blue coupe. I'd like to backtrack on that investigation with Inspector Austin here and see where it leads us.
It's okay with me.
You remember the investigation of that Tracy holdup, Austin?
Yes. The license number on the getaway car was traced to a woman who had moved to Connecticut. She was completely innocent.
Was it a stolen car?
Apparently not. I always did think that they had repainted license plates from a previous year.
Do you remember the license on the car?
No, but I've got it over at the office.
Let's work backwards on that angle then.
A check with the Motor Vehicle Bureau reveals that the license number on the getaway car used in the Tracy holdup in 1928 is the same as the license issued to Ellis in 1926, at which time he gave a San Francisco address. Officers tracing him at that address gleaned the information that he has a brother-in-law living in Berkeley. Although this gentleman proves his innocence and denies knowledge of Ellis's whereabouts, officers find the wanted man's address in a notebook. Once in possession of this information, a posse is hastily assembled, and on a quiet Sunday afternoon, 9 officers representing the Oakland police, the federal government, and the sheriff's office close in on a pleasant little bungalow on an Oakland side street.
And all posted, Garrett?
They're surrounding the house.
Good. All set, Chance?
Set.
When I get in the door, get it open, you follow me in. Stay out of sight until then, okay?
Okay.
Here goes. I beg your pardon, ma'am. Could you tell me where the Stewarts live?
Why, I don't know. I'm not very well... Hey, get your foot out of that door.
I'm coming in.
Frank!
Quiet. One peep out of you and I'll lay you out. Come on, Chance.
Hey, listen, you can't do this. You ain't got no right to...
We're federal officers. Now shut up. Grab that gun on the table, Chance.
Hey, listen to me, you big flat book. This is my house. You can't break in here without a warrant.
We don't need one now. You got a license for this gun?
Why, I don't know.
All right, that's the charge for the present. Now keep quiet and don't cause us any trouble. The place is surrounded. Inspector Garrett's just come in the back way, and it isn't going to do you any good to make a squawk.
Where's your husband?
I don't know.
There's someone in the bathroom here.
Keep your eyes on her, Chance. Come on, Garrett.
Yeah, he must be washing his face. Probably never heard it.
Open the door. Hands up, Ellis.
What? Hey, what is this, a hijack?
No, it's an arrest. Drop that razor. Drop it, I said. Now, get out of here and get into a shirt. You're going to headquarters.
What for?
Plenty. Suspicion of robbing the United States mails to begin with.
Oh, but look here, you got the wrong guy. I'm a respectable salesman. I don't know what this is all about.
Well, if you're on the up and up, it won't take you long to clear yourself. Now get going.
Hey, Austin, this joint's an arsenal.
What do you mean?
The boys just found 3 rifles, a couple of automatics, and a flock of bulletproof vests.
Yeah? So you're a respectable salesman, eh, Ellis? What do you sell, munitions? Come on, get going.
For 3 hours, the officers remained with their prisoners in the bungalow, hoping for the arrival of other members of the gang. During this time, neither husband nor wife answers the constant interrogations of the officers. And Ellis complains of illness, confesses to being a narcotic addict, begs the officers for a shot, is refused. Finally, the prisoners are placed in separate police cars and convoyed to the postal authorities' headquarters. On the way down, Ellis apparently becomes much worse.
Please, boys, please give me a shot. I can't stand this agony.
No.
Oh, listen, guys, be human, will
In the
you?
first place, if I haven't got any. In the second place, if I did, I wouldn't give you any.
I tell you, I can't stand this much longer. Every nerve in my body's screaming.
That's tough.
Oh, listen, these cuffs are cutting my wrist to beat the devil. At least take them off, will you?
We'll be at headquarters in a few minutes.
Oh, take the cuffs off, Austin. It'll be all right. The poor guy's really suffering.
Well, okay.
Oh, thanks, Inspector. Thanks a lot. Gosh, those things cut bad.
Well, here we are. Come on, Ellis, pile out.
I don't know whether I can make it. I'm pretty weak.
Here, I'll give you a hand.
Easy. Gee, you don't know how bad I hurt. If you guys would only give me a shot.
You'll be all right. One more step now. There.
Thanks, Flatfoot.
Hey, come back here.
I'm double-crossing dirty.
Halt! Halt, or I'll fire.
Go ahead and shoot. You can't hit me.
Good shot, Austin. That dropped him.
Come on, let's make sure. He may be Sammy.
All right, never mind now. Never mind, folks. Now stand back. Stand back, I say. Never mind.
He's dead, all right. I drilled him right through the heart.
Mrs. Ellis had already been taken into the post office when her husband was shot. Withholding the news of his death from her, officers questioned her regarding the train robbery. For 4 hours, she submits unyieldingly to the barrage of questions fired at her. Finally, in an effort to break her, Inspector Austin plays his trump card.
Mrs. Ellis, there's no sense in you holding out any longer. It's quite clear that you're trying to protect your husband. That's what you're trying to do, isn't it?
What?
Protect your husband.
Protect who?
Your husband.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, Mrs. Ellis. But just for the sake of argument, we'll assume that you were trying to protect him.
Assume anything you like, you dirty baboon.
Well, he doesn't need your protection any longer because he's dead.
What? Oh, I see. A trap, huh?
No, that's a fact. He was shot trying to escape from us when we pulled up outside the building. He died immediately.
Oh, yeah? Say, you can't catch me that way. You must think I'm a babe in arms.
What I'm telling you is the truth.
A copper never tells the truth.
Very well, Mrs. Ellis. I'll prove it to you. Come along.
Where are you going to take me?
To the morgue.
Oh, hello, Inspector.
Hello, Doctor. Have you posted that shooting case yet?
Yeah, that's number 37.
I want to get an identification.
Right this way. Let's see now. Here we are.
Hold on the sheet, will you please, Doc? Well, Mrs. Ellis?
I don't know that man.
Back in the post office, the questioning continues.
Well, Mrs. Ellis, what have you to say now?
Nothing.
I've shown you the proof of your husband's death.
That man's not my husband.
Who else robbed the Southern Pacific train at Noble?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Isn't it true that your husband robbed the post office at Tracy 2 years ago?
You drove the getaway car in the train robbery at McAvoy last year.
And that Fresno winery hijacking. You and your husband pulled that, too.
Would you mind if I help myself to some water?
No, there's a cooler in the corner.
Thank you.
Grab her, Garris. She's trying to jump out the window.
Get back here. Come on.
Ah, Mrs. Ellis, what's the idea of that?
I'd rather bump myself off than dirty myself being in the same room with you, swine.
Very well. We'll place you in a nice private cell where you can think this whole thing over for yourself. And where there are bars to keep you from jumping out of windows. Lock her up, Garrett.
With Frank Smith, alias Frank Ellis, dead, and Mrs. Ellis defiantly mute in jail, authorities begin the search for friends of the Smiths, whom neighbors inform them are known as Mr. and Mrs. York. Shown a mug book, they quickly identify York as Charles Berta, a Canadian ex-convict. Meanwhile, in Seattle, Postal Inspector Imus picked up Sherwood on the street from the description provided by Oakland officers. And then a few days later, in a small grocery store in Seattle...
Now, what does that all amount to?
Let me see. It's $1.35.
And, oh, yeah, let me have a dozen eggs.
Yes, a dozen eggs, yes, sir. That makes $1.60.
$1.60. Let's see, that's 32 nickels, isn't it?
32 nickels? Why, my Mrs. Carton, what you been doing? Breaking the jackpot and slot machine?
No, as a matter of fact, I've been saving nickels for a long time. Several years now.
Yeah, they do mount up, don't they?
They certainly do. There you are.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Carton. Good day.
Good day.
Yeah, saving nickels for several years. Yeah, these nickels are all bright. They ain't never been used. Land of Goshen, they're all 1928 Buffaloes. Think I better call the police.
Thus, another mistake on the part of the criminals ensnares two more when Carlton and his wife are taken into custody. Mugged and printed, Carlton turns out to be Earl J. Crispin, wanted in Detroit on a bunco charge. Back to Oakland swings the investigation, where finally officers locate the residence of Berta and his wife. They lose no time in visiting the apartment of the suspects.
Better try knocking, Stone. Try it again, louder.
All right. Don't break the door down.
Well, why don't you answer your bell then?
Do I have to tell that, too? What's the big idea? Who are you?
Police officers. And you're Mrs. Berta.
Wrong party. My name's York.
Okay, Mrs. York, alias Mrs. Berta. Where's your husband?
I haven't any.
Okay, have it your way. Mind if we come in?
Of course I do.
Well, we're coming just the same.
You can't come in here without a search warrant.
Here it is.
Oh. Thought of everything, didn't you?
Yep.
Turn on the light, Stone. Go through the joint while I talk to Mrs. Berta.
What do you expect to find? Dead bodies?
You never can tell. Come on, Eddie.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Berta.
I wish you'd use my right name.
Suppose I just call you.
Okay, if you don't add anything to it.
Okay, you. What do you know about that train robbery at Noble?
Huh? That's easy. Nothing.
Isn't it true that your husband is an ex-convict?
I haven't any husband. What other silly questions can you think of?
It might interest you to know that your husband's mug has been identified as one of the mob that held up the SP train at Noble.
Considering the fact that I have no husband, it does. Go on. This is the best laugh I've had in a month.
Maybe that's your non-existent husband now. I'll answer it.
Don't bother. I'll answer it. Hello? Oh. Well, I'm sorry. You've got the wrong number. Huh. Gee, the telephone service is simply awful in this town.
Yeah.
Huh. Can you beat that? Another one I got. Hello?
Hey, what's wrong up there?
You've got the wrong number.
Hey, son, come along with me. I heard a guy's voice on the other end. I think you stay here and watch Mrs. Berta.
What do you mean you heard a guy's voice?
A guy said, hey, what's wrong up there? My hunch is that it's Berta. He saw all the lights on and got suspicious. I'll bet he's down at the corner drugstore telephoning. Yeah, there's a guy who answers his description, standing across the street in front of the drugstore.
Yeah, he's seen us. He's walking away.
Come on, let's try to catch up with him.
Yeah, he's wise. He's running.
Let's go. Get out your gun.
Right.
Hey, you, stop. Halt. Tackle him, Stone.
Hey, what's the big idea?
Quiet, you.
Help, police. I'm being robbed.
What's going on here?
All right, Sergeant. We're officers. Give us a hand.
Oh, very well, Inspector. Come on, you. Quiet down.
Yeah, I got a little surprise for you guys.
Is that so? Well, there's one for you. Take that gun off him, Stone. Call the ambulance, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
I guess that'll teach you to pull a rod on a policeman.
It was 3 months before Berta recovered from his bullet wound, and during this time, postal inspectors and Oakland officers amassed a tremendous pile of evidence and array of witnesses. In July of 1931, Mrs. Smith and Sherwood went on trial, were found guilty, and sentenced to 25 years apiece. When he had recovered from his wounds, Berta also received a 25-year sentence. Christman, who had been returned to Michigan and sentenced on the bunco charge, had been brought back to testify on the trial, and on his return to the Michigan penitentiary, escaped from the officers in El Paso and is still a fugitive. The fourth member of the gang, James Sargent, was captured 2 years later and sentenced to his 25 years. And authorities are still looking for bandit number 5, whose identity the trial never brought out. Modern police activities are so efficient that very few lawbreakers escape paying the penalty for their crimes. Rio Grande Cracked Gasoline is proud of the prominent part it plays in the capture of thousands of criminals. Today, police cars make greater speed and have greater power than ever before, because Rio Grande's exclusive cracking process creates a gasoline that gets the maximum power from modern motors. Police officials of leading western cities prefer Rio Grande Cracked, specify it more than any other brand. Why don't you try the same gasoline your police use and get police car performance in your own car? Every month, 375,000 people go into Rio Grande Cracked gasoline service stations and ask for a free copy of the Calling All Cars News. Get your copy of this interesting publication. Read the true stories of crimes to be dramatized on this month's Calling All Cars broadcasts.
Calling all cars, attention all cars. Cancellation broadcast 84 regarding a train robbery. Suspects in this case are now in custody. That's all.
Your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, broadcast 85 regarding a murder. Mrs. Maud Roth was found murdered this afternoon in her home on East Avenue 28. That's all. Rose and Cliff.
Rio Grande Oil Company proudly announces the addition of another big city to the Rio Grande Roll of Honor. That fast-growing list of cities which protect their taxpayers by specifying Rio Grande cracked gasoline exclusively for all emergency engines. For years, Rio Grande has powered more police cars, ambulances, and fire engines than any other brand of gasoline. Cities like Los Angeles, Oakland, Berkeley, Fresno, Merced, and many others have proved to their taxpayers that this patented, processed gasoline, which costs no more than other brands, speeds up emergency motors faster than ever, creates greater power, yet actually reduces automobile operating costs. And now another great western city decides to specify Rio Grande cracked gasoline to protect its citizens. In Maricopa County, Arizona, where all sheriffs and county cars have long been using Rio Grande cracked gasoline, the advantages and economies have been so obvious that now Arizona's largest city, Phoenix, has joined the other progressive municipalities that use Rio Grande exclusively. Approximately half the people of the entire state of Arizona are now protected by police and emergency equipment powered with Rio Grande cracked gasoline. With the many police cars, fire engines, and ambulances of Phoenix, Arizona added to the total on the Rio Grande honor roll of cities, it is now more than ever a fact that Rio Grande cracked gasoline is used in more emergency vehicles in California and Arizona than all other brands combined. With so many shrewd city purchasing agents specifying the same Rio Grande cracked gasoline that your neighborhood service station offers you, what greater proof can you ask? Now, will you try Rio Grande? And now we are privileged to present Captain Bert Wallace of the Homicide Detail of the Los Angeles Police Department. Captain Wallace.
Good evening, friends. There is nothing thrilling about a murder, nothing romantic about a criminal, and not much excitement about detective work. Murders happen to people like you and me, and are committed by persons like you and me. Stripped of all the trimmings of sensationalism, the solution of a crime is a matter of hard work and little fireworks. The difference between the criminal and the police officer is the difference between wrong and right. Other than that, it is a matter of human beings putting their wits against each other. The criminal has the cards stacked against him from the first. His preliminary mistake was to think he could get away with murder, basing his reasoning on a primary false premise. It follows that everything he does as a result of his act will probably be stupid and fail in its purpose of evading the law. From the moment he commits this crime, the lawbreaker attempts to match wits with men smarter than he is. He fails because he is wrong, and because, well, no sooner or later he must slacken up in his flight from the law. His pursuers never relax their vigilance. Tonight, without any of the melodramatics which people like to associate with crime and detectives, we will follow a couple of hard-working officers as they untangle the problem presented by a crime of passion.
How do you like this daytime shift, Teddy?
It gets on my nerves.
Here it is, 3:30 in the afternoon, and we haven't done anything but play checkers since 9 o'clock this morning. Your move.
Well, this'll give you some excitement. 1 and 2 and 3. And give me a king.
I'm a son of a gun. I must be asleep or something.
You may be the checker whiz around Central, but you're just a piker out here at Lincoln Heights.
I guess you're right.
Well, I'll get it.
I can wait. Probably some dame squawking about the guy next door burning rubbish after hours.
Lincoln Heights detective. What? Yes? Yes? East Avenue 28? Yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. We'll be right out. Come on, Eddie.
What's up?
Right up.
All right, folks. Stand back. Clear off the porch now.
I'm Mrs. Howard, officer. I phoned.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Howard. Where's the body?
No, right this way. Oh, it's the most terrible thing, officer. Poor Mrs. Ross.
Did you discover the body?
No, Mrs. Ross' little girl found her when she came home from school.
Mrs. Roth is the victim.
Yes, Mrs. Maud Ross. She's in there.
Thank you.
We'll have a look around. Oh, and don't go away, Mrs. Howard. We'll want to ask you some questions, and we'll want to talk to the little girl, too.
Yes, sir. We'll be right here in the front room.
Now, Mac, let's get out this.
Well, would you look at that?
Looks like he beat her head in.
He? Well, what makes you think a man did it?
It'd have to be a pretty powerful woman to do this job. Look where one of the swipes missed her head and took a quarter-inch gouge out of this door sill.
Well, we can be sure of one thing. Robbery wasn't the motive.
Why?
And look, this purse here. There's about $50 in it.
Yeah. See anything looks like the weapon?
Nope.
You called the coroner, didn't you?
Yeah, I told the sergeant to as we left the station.
Well, we better get a fingerprint man out here, too. I'm going to talk to that little girl. Is this the little daughter, Mrs. Howard?
Yes, this is Betty. Now, dear, try not to take it so hard. This gentleman is a policeman. He wants to ask you some questions.
All right.
You found your mother?
Yes. When I came home from school this afternoon, I came in, and there she was.
No. When had you seen her before?
She made me breakfast when she got home this morning.
When she got home this morning?
Mrs. Roth worked at night in an office building.
Oh, I see.
She always got me breakfast and sent me off to school.
Who do you think did this to your mother, Betty?
I don't know.
Did Mrs. Roth have any men friends, Mrs. Howard?
Well, not that I know of. She was too busy working all the time. She had a mighty hard time of it, making ends meet.
Well, there's more than $50 in her pocketbook in there.
Well, you see, she just got her monthly pay yesterday.
Coroner's here, Eddie. Think she's been dead 6 or 7 hours.
Let's see, that would place it around 9 o'clock. What time did you leave for school, Betty?
I always go at 8:30.
Well, that would indicate someone was familiar with the habits of the household.
Now, Mrs. Howard, who do you think was...
You don't want to ask Betty any more questions right now, do you, officer? The poor child is so upset.
No, but I would like to ask you...
Yes, I know. Now, Betty, you run over to my house. Sally's got some tea brewing and some nice cookies.
Yes, ma'am. But you'll come soon, won't you, Mrs. Howard? I'm going to miss Mommy so.
Yes, dear, I'll be right along shortly. I didn't want the poor child to hear this, but I have got my suspicions.
What are they?
Well, I think you ought to find Mrs. Roth's husband. He might know something about this.
Oh, she is married then.
Yes, married and divorced. He sued her for divorce somewhere back in Kansas, but she sued him, too, and she got it. She's often told me she was afraid of him.
Why?
Well, she never would say.
What is this husband's name?
Harry Roth.
Where does he live?
Well, over on Museum Drive somewhere. I don't know the exact address.
You know where he works?
Yes, he works for the city.
For the city?
Yes, he's a brick mason.
That'd be the engineering department. We can locate him through them.
Right. You'll take care of the little girl, will you, Mrs. Howard?
Oh, gladly.
We'll remove the body to the morgue, and we'll post an officer out front to keep people away.
Thank you very much for your assistance, Mrs. Howard.
You're quite welcome, gentlemen.
Okay, Eddie. Let's start on the trail of this rock fellow.
Tracing Roth's address through the city engineering department, Detectives McBride and Romero await his arrival from work at his little cottage on Museum Drive. Finally, a man who answers Roth's description drives up to the house and, after a moment of indecision, approaches the two officers.
Is your name Roth?
Yeah, what of it?
When did you last see your wife?
A wife? I ain't got no wife.
Mrs. Maud Roth isn't your wife?
Oh, her? Well, she's my ex-wife. I ain't seen her in 5 years, I guess.
Didn't you know she was murdered this morning, then?
Maud murdered? Oh, you're kidding.
Oh, no, we're not. We're from police headquarters.
Well, who did it?
That's what we're trying to find out. Have you any idea?
No. Just like I told you, I ain't seen her for years.
Where were you this morning, Roth?
Well, I went to work as usual.
Between 8 a.m. and 10 o'clock, what were you doing?
Well, I left the house here at 8 a.m. like I always do.
Then where'd you go?
I drove to the Yale Street yards of the city street department where I reported to work.
What time did you get there?
About 8:15.
Where did you go from there?
Well, my gang was loading cement on a truck for a manhole job we was working on at 21st and Tobin. And when they got it all loaded, they drove out in the truck, and I followed them in my car.
What time did you get on the job?
Around 9 o'clock, I guess it was.
Aren't you sure?
Say, I don't have to carry a stopwatch around to frame alibis. What are you guys doing? Accuse me of killing Maud?
We're not accusing anybody, but we'll have to ask you to come in with us till we check your story.
To the Yale Street yards of the city engineering department, the officers go to question Roth's fellow workmen.
Now, Pop, can you remember what time Roth arrived here yesterday?
Yes, he got here about 8:15, same time he always does.
He says that he had his men load their truck and followed them to the job at 21st and Toberman Street. Is that right?
Yes, he got there a few minutes after we did.
Now, what time was that?
Well, now, I don't know exactly. Do you remember when Roth got out to the job yesterday, Harry?
Well, I ain't sure of the exact minute, but it was around 9 o'clock.
Around 9 o'clock. Before or after 9?
Well, I can't say. Just as long as it took us to drive from here out to Toberman Street.
Remember any of the circumstances about Roth yesterday morning, Pop?
What do you mean, circumstances?
Well, how'd he act? Any different than usual?
No, he was just the same. He always acts early.
Nothing unusual happened yesterday,
Well,
then?
no, nothing that I can remember.
Say, there was that guy he was talking to.
What guy?
While we was loading the truck, some bird came up to Roth. They walked over there by the shed and talked for a few minutes.
What did they talk about?
I couldn't hear. They was too far away, but Roth seemed sore at this guy. He cussed him plenty when he left.
What did this mystery man look like?
Oh, I didn't notice him particularly. He was just a guy, wore a business suit.
Just a guy in a business suit. Well, that's not much of a description.
Did you see him, Pop?
Oh, yes, I saw him, but, well, I didn't pay no attention to him.
Did either of you ever hear Roth mention his wife?
Oh, yes. He didn't like her none.
What did he say about her?
Oh, he had it in for her.
How do you know?
Well, he used to say he hated her bad enough to kill her.
He didn't like women anyway. He said there was no better than the dogs.
Hated his wife bad enough to kill her, eh?
Well, that ought to be enough to hold him on suspicion of murder.
Well, we can't hold this guy forever on suspicion of murder, Mac. We got him in here for a week now, and nothing's turned up.
I know it, but I'm convinced he killed her.
Well, we got to prove that. Why, we haven't even found the murder weapon yet.
Well, I've had men searching the riverbed for a metal bar.
Why metal?
Well, it must have been a bar of metal he used. If it had been wood, there would have been some splinters around. And anyway, wood couldn't have gouged that door jamb the way it was.
Well, his alibi is pretty tight. Why, the construction job at 21st and Toberman is 6 miles from the scene of the crime. 6 miles right across town. He'd have to do some tall traveling to get out there from the Yale Street yards and back to Toberman and 21st in less than a half an hour. And we know the approximate times he was at both places.
Well, maybe he used an aeroplane, but I'm convinced he did it.
Eager to get an indictment against the man they have every reason to suspect of the murder, Detectives Romero and McBride take the results of their investigation to Deputy District Attorney James Costello.
So, these are the facts in the case, Jimmy. What can we do about it?
Well, boys, you've done a splendid job. But there still isn't enough evidence here to hold Roth to answer for murder.
That's what I was afraid of.
You didn't find any fingerprints out there?
None that didn't belong to the victim or her daughter.
I think it'd be a good idea to look the place over again. Maybe you missed something.
Okay.
I'll send Ed King and Jesse Wynn along to help you.
Fine. We'll go out there right away.
Reinforced by Ed King and Jess Wynn, special investigators from the district attorney's office, Romero and McBride return to the murder house on Avenue 28, where they meet Mrs. Howard, the next-door neighbor.
We want to go through Mrs. Roth's house again, Mrs. Howard. Have you the key?
Why, yes, but I don't know what you'll find there now.
Why?
Well, after the men were finished going through the house for fingerprints and whatnot, I cleaned it up so it could be rented again.
Mm-hmm. You mean to say you've changed everything around?
Why, yes. Was that wrong?
Oh, you should have waited until we told you to do that, Mrs. Howard.
Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't know.
Where did you put the stuff you cleaned out?
Why, I burned it in an incinerator out back.
Well, boys, that's bad.
Well, anyway, you might as well take Wynn inside, Mac, and show him the layout. Ed and I'll have a look at the incinerator just for luck.
You'll need it. Now, come on, Jesse. Will you let us in, please, Mrs. Howard?
Why, gladly. I'm awful sorry about this, Lieutenant. Well, I don't know about it.
I guess that's the incinerator out there, Ed.
Yeah, looks like it.
Ah, it's too bad she cleaned everything up.
Yeah.
Not much chance of finding anything here. A lot of old bottles and cans.
Well, let's poke around. There's a piece of paper that isn't burned.
What's it say?
Nothing. It's just an old grocery bill.
And an old strap, a half-burned doll.
Hey, wait a minute. There's another scrap of paper.
Looks like a piece of faded blueprint.
Yeah, that's what it is. The number's here on the corner. Number 8558. I guess it doesn't mean anything, though.
Wait a minute. Look at the way it's been creased.
Yeah, what of it?
It might have been wrapped around a long, narrow object, a bar of iron or a piece of pipe.
Oh, it might, but it's a pretty slender clue.
Any clue's worth tracking down in this case. Let's check on this blueprint.
While Wynn and McBride continue their close recheck of the scene of the crime, Romero and King visit the county surveyor's office in an attempt to trace the fragment of blueprint.
Hello, Romero.
Hello, Tommy. You know Ed King from the DA's office, don't you?
Sure. How are you, Ed?
Okay.
What you boys sleuthing for now?
We're trying to trace a blueprint, number 8558. Can you tell us what construction it covered?
Well, let's see. 8558. Ought to be in the book here. Yeah, here it is. Number 8558. Yeah, that covered the construction of some manholes in the central warehouse district between Lincoln Park and the General Hospital. Did that job in 1923.
So far, so good. Now, here's a half-burned fragment of that print. Can you tell me who it was issued to?
Now you're asking riddles, Romero. How should I know?
Don't you keep records of who gets these blueprints?
No.
Well, that doesn't sound very efficient.
Well, here's the way our blueprints are issued. The men working on a particular job send us a request for a print. We have a record of his name and address. And as soon as the print's delivered, we destroy that card. Why, on this manhole job, probably 100 blueprints were issued. If we kept a permanent record, we'd have to take over the city hall for this one department.
Yeah, but we got to know who had this particular blueprint.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid, boys, that you're out of luck.
Still refusing to give up, the two detectives visit the city engineer's office, whence workmen are assigned to the various construction jobs.
Well, sir, boys, what can I do for you? We're trying to trace the fellow who worked on construction job 8558. 8558? What was that? It was a manhole job in the central warehouse district about 3 years ago. You got a record of the men who worked on it?
No, we don't keep records on the personnel after the job's finished.
Can you imagine that, Ed?
I'm not surprised.
Well, listen, this is important. Will you look through your files and see if, just by accident, you still have the information?
Okay, but I'm sure it isn't there.
Well, make doubly sure. Go through the files. We'll be back later.
Okay.
Let's go, Ed. I want to go through Roth's car.
What's on your mind?
Well, I got an idea. I know what the murder weapon was.
What?
You know the way that piece of blueprint was folded? Like it had been wrapped around a long, thin object?
Yeah?
You know what a gad is?
No, what is it?
A bar of metal about the size of a shovel handle. They use it to break up paving blocks, same way a carpenter uses a chisel, only on a bigger scale with a sledgehammer.
Oh, that'd make a mean weapon, wouldn't it?
I'll say. And there's a whole flock of them around the Yale Street yards. Roth would naturally have access to them in his work. That's why I want to look over his car. The murder weapon might still be in it.
Okay, let's go. Well, I don't see anything like a gad under the front seat here. You got anything in the rumble?
Yeah, here are a lot of old blueprints. Look, some of them are 4 and 5 years old. Say, here's a suit of overalls.
Anything on them?
Well, we'll see quick enough. Here's a couple of suspicious-looking stains.
Well, looks like grease to me.
Might be, and again, they might not. We'll just take them in for analysis.
What's the idea of coming all the way down here to the yard?
Well, we got to wait for the chemist's report anyway, and there's one point in Roth's alibi I want to check on.
What's that?
Roth contends that he couldn't have left here at 8:30, driven to Avenue 28, committed the murder, and gotten over to 21st and Toberman by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're going to see whether he could or not. We're passing the yards now. Check the time.
Okay.
Well, here we are in front of Mrs. Roth's house. How long did that take?
6 minutes.
Well, if we give him 10 minutes to murder his wife, that would still leave him 15 minutes to get over to 21st and Toberman.
Well, let's see if that's possible.
Okay.
Hey, wait a minute. That guy in the milk truck across the street is waving to us. He's walking over this way.
Hey, pardon me, gents, but are you detectives?
Yeah?
You trying to solve Mrs. Roth's murder?
That's right.
Well, I know something about it, or something funny at any rate, and maybe you ought to know it.
What is it?
Well, I've been seeing a guy hanging around outside Mrs. Roth's house when I made my deliveries.
What time is that?
Well, I usually get out here by 5:15.
How often did you see this man around?
Oh, 3 or 4 times in the past month.
Did you see him on January 17th, the day Mrs. Roth was murdered?
Yeah, I seen him coming out of the house.
At 5:15?
Well, no, it was around 8:45.
You said you made your deliveries at 5:15.
Yeah, but this was the morning I was making my collection.
You say that was about 8:45?
Yeah, that's right.
What did this man look like?
Well, he was about medium height. He didn't look like much of anything.
Would you recognize him if you saw him again?
Sure.
Okay. You'll be down at Central Station at 5:30 this afternoon. We'll see if you can identify him from some suspect we have down there, okay?
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Ask for Romero.
Romero.
All right, Ed, now let's time the trip from here to 21st and Toberman.
All right. I got it.
Things are looking better, huh?
Yeah, I'll say. Now, if this milkman recognizes Roth.
There's the corner of 21st and Toberman. How long did that take?
16 minutes.
And if Roth was seen leaving his ex-wife's house at approximately 8:45 and he arrived here a few minutes after 9...
Well, it all checks.
Yeah, but it still won't convince a jury. Let's get back and hear what the chemist has to say about those grease spots.
Undoubtedly, the original spots in this sample were made by blood, over which grease had been smeared. But the action of the grease has absorbed the blood. That makes positive identification impossible.
The guy knew his stuff, huh?
Apparently.
And you couldn't testify that these spots were made by blood?
I'm sorry, gentlemen, I could not.
Stopped again. Come on, Ed.
Where to now?
Back to the city engineer's office. We'll see if that guy has found any record of blueprint 8558. Well, how about it? Did you find anything on that manhole job?
No, I'm sorry. The records are destroyed.
Well, can't you do something for us? We need a positive identification to clear this thing up.
Well, I've asked Hank Lowry to come in and talk to you. He's an old timer, and he may be able to remember the job. Oh, Hank.
Yeah, Harry?
Here are the 2 detectives that are after some dope on that manhole job. See if you can help them out.
Sure, I'd be glad to. What is it, boy?
We're trying to find out who worked on this construction job, 8558. It was a manhole put in 3 years ago over in the Central Warehouse District.
Oh, let me see that print. Yeah, I recollect this job. It was the dad business one of the whole lot. We had to rebuild it twice.
Did you work on the job?
Well, I'll say I did. In the heat of July it was, too.
Who else was with you on it?
Who else? Well, now, that's asking a lot, you know. They come and they go. I don't know as how I could say who worked on this.
Well, think. Please try to remember.
Well, let me see. There was that Mexican Dominguez. No, that's not right. That was the other job over by the new hospital. Guess there must have been 10 or 15 in the gang on this job. I can't possibly remember them all. Only one that sticks in my mind at all was Harry Roth.
Harry Roth?
Are you sure?
Well, of course I'm sure. My memory ain't never failed me yet.
That's all we want to know. Come on, Ed.
Well, our circumstantial evidence case looks better and better, huh?
I'll say. Roth will have a tough time explaining how a burned piece of blueprint from a job he worked on 3 years ago was found in his dead wife's house when he claims he hasn't seen her for 5 years.
Now, if we can only get an identification from that milkman.
Well, here I am, Lieutenant. Right on time.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, all we want you to do is to look over the men in the show-up in the next room. Tell me if the man you saw around Mrs. Roth that morning is one of them.
Okay.
Parade in the suspect, will you, Eddie?
Right.
This way, please.
This what you call a show-up?
Yeah. We throw these bright lights on the suspects' faces. They can't see you, but you can see them.
Oh, that's so they don't bump you off after they get out, huh?
Yeah, that's the general
Yeah,
idea.
but what I don't see is why
Quiet.
they...
Here they come. Well?
That's him. Third from the left.
Are you sure?
Positive.
All right, Sergeant. Take them back to their cells.
Well, Ed, what did he say?
Our friend here just identified Roth as the man whom he saw leaving the scene of the crime at 8:45.
Next day, the hard work of Detectives Romero, King, Wynn, and McBride is rewarded when the grand jury indicts Harry Roth for the murder of his wife. Then McBride discovers the identity of the stranger with whom Roth had argued on the morning of his wife's death. Armed with this information, the officers question Roth again.
Well, Roth, how about it?
About what?
You've been in the can long enough to think it over. Do you want to come clean?
If you're talking about a confession, you're barking up the wrong tree. I got nothing to confess.
Listen, Roth. We've got an identification of you by a man who saw you leaving your wife.
I ain't got no wife.
All right, then, your ex-wife's house. You were seen leaving there at 8:45 on the morning of January 17th.
After you'd brutally murdered her with a gad which you'd rolled up in a blueprint number 8558.
You guys sure are smart, ain't you?
No, just thorough.
Isn't it true that you were served with a subpoena for failure to contribute to the support of your child on that morning?
I ain't talking.
Well, we know that you were, and that you had an argument with the process server, and that you cursed him out of the yard.
And you've expressed a bitter hatred for your wife on more than one occasion, haven't you?
Sure I hated her. She got what was coming to her. And someone ought to bump the kid off, too, so that she wouldn't grow up to be like her old lady.
Was that your plan, to come back and murder your daughter, too?
I didn't do it, wise guy.
You realize that anything you say may be used against you, Roth. That statement you just made is pretty incriminating.
Yeah, well, try to hang me on it. Or any of the other nice little theories you have. Just try to send me up.
That's exactly what we intend to do.
And that is exactly what the well-worked-out case developed by your police succeeded in doing. For Charles Roth was convicted of first-degree murder on June the 9th, 1926. He appealed and lost, and on October the 21st, 1927, sullen and unrepentant, he paid for his crime with his life on the grim gallows of San Quentin, another stretched neck in memoriam to the fact that crime does not pay.
Thank you, Captain Wallace. Science plays a role in police work as important as the work of the detective. Science is used even to determine which is the speediest and most economical gasoline for police cars. Rio Grande cracked gasoline has been selected more than all other brands because it is refined by the newest scientific method. Scientists of the worldwide Sinclair Oil Organization perfected cracking, which is recognized by all authorities as the most efficient refining process known. Rio Grande, as the western unit of Sinclair Oil, has the exclusive right to make cracked gasoline by this patented cracking process. And although it costs more to manufacture, it costs you no more to buy Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Use the same gasoline specified by cities for their emergency automobiles and enjoy police car performance in your own car. Flash! All ships in the Great Atlantic Fleet of the United States Navy are lubricated by Sinclair Oils. Another year's contract has been awarded to Sinclair because the United States Navy has used Sinclair Oils year after year and has yet to find better oils at any price. For only 25 cents a quart, you can buy Sinclair Opaline motor oil at any service station selling Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Use the oil your Navy chooses.
Police calling all cars, attention all cars, to cancellation broadcast 85 regarding a murder. Suspect in this case is now in custody. That's all. Rosenquist.
Get your copy of Calling All Cars News free at any Rio Grande service station and read about next week's true police drama. This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Calling all cars, attention all cars, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office. Broadcast 86. The body of an unidentified woman found in a sack near San Fernando. That's all. Rosenquist.
Rio Grande has marched another step ahead. In northern Nevada, the citizens of Reno now enjoy police car performance, and with the addition of Phoenix, Arizona to the long list of cities now using Rio Grande cracked gasoline exclusively, it is now more true than ever that throughout California, Arizona, and Nevada, more police cars, fire engines, ambulances, motorcycles, more emergency equipment of every type are powered by Rio Grande cracked than by all other brands of gasoline combined. Why did Phoenix decide to change to Rio Grande cracked? Not because of price, not because of politics, but because of the performance of this outstanding gasoline. For a long time, the Maricopa County, Arizona Sheriff's cars have been using Rio Grande cracked gasoline. They have made greater speed, had greater power than ever before, and records prove it costs less per mile to operate a car on Rio Grande cracked gasoline. That's why Phoenix, Arizona's capital and largest city, has changed to Rio Grande. And that's why the big California cities, Oakland, Berkeley, Fresno, Bakersfield, Los Angeles, and many others, specify Rio Grande cracked for all emergency cars. When are you going to change? Rio Grande's independent service stations offer you the same cracked gasoline that these cities are using. With a tank full of Rio Grande cracked, your car, too, will give police car performance. Tonight it is our privilege to welcome to Calling All Cars the famous sheriff of Los Angeles County, Gene Biscalou, who will tell you how the deputies in his office proceed to solve crime. Sheriff Biscalou.
First, let me correct the common misunderstanding of what constitutes a detective. There's a lot of misinforming ballyhoo turned out regarding the romance of being a detective. In the 28 years I have spent in the sheriff's office, I have failed to find any of this romance. Sherlock Holmes was a very interesting figure with his fore and aft cap and his magnifying glass, and Philo Vance is undoubtedly thrilling to the lovers of detective fiction, with his suave sophistication and his cane and spat. But I have never run into either of them when there is any real police work to be done. We law enforcement officers are concerned with fact, not thrilling fiction, and for that reason our lives and our activities, I am sorry to have to assure you, are not half as fascinating as you may think them. The case you are about to hear does not make a good detective story. In it you will encounter no amazing scientific sleuthing, you will hear no Superman deduction, but you will see how we set about to solve a crime. We know that most criminals make stupid breaks and blunders. Our deputy sheriffs, by common sense and hard work, ferret out these inconsistencies. Not one of our men considers himself a genius, yet we have successfully solved 98% of our cases. The secret of being a detective is discovering the mistakes which every criminal is bound to make. Our story begins on Christmas Day. 8 years ago, my chief criminal deputy, Captain William J. Bright, was just finishing his Christmas dinner.
That, my dear, is the best Christmas dinner I have ever eaten.
Thanks, Bill. From the looks of that turkey carcass, you seem to have enjoyed it.
I did, but I'm not through yet. Now, if you'll just pass me another piece of that mince pie, I'll...
Oh, why, Bill, you'll burst. Oh, there's the phone. I'll answer it. Here, you enjoy your pie.
And if it's anybody from the sheriff's office, tell him I'm, well, tell him anything. I don't want to be bothered. Oh, well, why didn't you tell him?
Oh, he says it's very important.
Oh, all right, I'll talk to him. Yes, Bud? Okay. Yes, I'll be right out. Goodbye.
What is it, Bill?
Well, they just found the body of a murdered woman out near San Fernando.
Oh, can't they handle it?
No, I guess not. I'd better see what it's all about. Well, there goes my Christmas, shot full of holes. But you enjoy yourself. I'll be back as soon as I can.
very few minutes later, Captain Bright joins Captain Bean of the Los Angeles Police Department, Chief Rice of San Fernando, Deputy Amstein, and Autopsy Surgeon Webb in a mortuary in San Fernando.
We've all been out to the scene of the crime, Captain Bright, but as the corpse was found in the county, we thought we'd better wait for you before we began an investigation.
Quite right, Chief. Who found the body?
Oh, a couple of Italians, Jack DePula and Danny Pellis. They were walking through a field on the outskirts of town when they saw a bundle wrapped up in this canvas sack. They thought it was a bedroll, but as you can see, they were mistaken.
Any evidence where the body was found?
Tire marks, but the rain has washed them so badly that they're worthless for identification.
What's your opinion, Doctor?
Well, the body's a woman's, about 45 years old, weight about 160, light brown hair and blue eyes. She was gagged with her own apron, hands tied behind her and her legs doubled up and tied behind her back.
How was she killed?
She was clubbed over the nose, but she probably died from strangulation and exposure during the rainstorm last night.
How long has she been dead?
Well, I'd say between 6 and 12 hours.
Any identifying marks on the clothing, Chief?
No, none whatsoever.
Here's something to identify her by. Look at this right hand.
Pretty badly mangled.
Yeah, like a claw. Apparently injured in an accident some time ago.
That ought to make the identification easy.
But the human claw does not make the identification easy. For days, deputy sheriffs checked the descriptions of missing women. And although several of them are known to have claw-like right index fingers, still none turns out to be the mysterious victim of the Sack murder. Then, an unexpected telephone call comes into the sheriff's office.
I think that murdered woman with the claw-like finger used to live across the way from me.
Excited, deputy sheriffs take the informant to the mortuary in San Fernando to identify the body. Then bring him back to Captain Bright's office.
I'm positive, Captain Bright, that the murdered woman is my neighbor from across the street.
What is her name, Mr. Whittier?
She went by the name of Molly Buck, but she told me her real name was Mrs. Amelia Appleby.
Why did she use another name?
To avoid relatives who were after her money, she said. I understand she inherited nearly $1 million from her husband.
And you say this Mrs. Appleby lived across the street from you?
Yes.
When did you last see her?
The day before Christmas. She was standing on the porch arguing with Dr. McMillan.
Dr. McMillan? Who's he?
Well, he was a friend of Mrs. Appleby's. They used to quarrel a lot. She told me that she was afraid he'd tried to put her into an insane asylum so he could get control of her property.
Is Dr. McMillan out there at the house now?
No, some people moved in day after Christmas.
They did?
Yes, and I called Dr. McMillan a couple of days ago when I saw these new tenants to find out what had become of Mrs. Appleby. He was very short with me. Told me she'd gone to San Diego and hung up.
Where's this doctor live?
At the Radford Arms Apartments on Western Avenue.
Fine. Amstein, Cruchon.
Yes, Captain.
Check on a Dr. McMillan at the Radford Arms on Western Avenue. He's a friend of our murder victim. See what he knows about her.
Yes, sir, right away. You the landlady?
Yes?
What apartment is Dr. McMillan?
Oh. But Dr. McMillan ain't in, and I don't expect him back tonight.
You're pretty definite about it, eh, Bert?
I'll say. Guess we better try again.
I told you Dr. McMillan ain't in.
We're deputy sheriffs, ma'am, and we want to know how to reach Dr. McMillan. It's important.
I told you he ain't in. He won't be in tonight at all.
What's his apartment number?
Apartment 7, but he ain't there.
We'll see about that. Apparently, she's under orders.
Yeah.
Let's see. Apartment 7. It's just down the hall here.
Yeah, there it is.
Sounds like somebody moving around in there.
We'll know pretty quick.
You Dr. McMillan?
Yes.
You're under arrest.
Why, I don't understand.
Captain will tell you all about it down at headquarters. He wants to ask you some questions.
What's the idea of all the papers spread on the floor, Doctor? Figuring on leaving town?
No, I was just looking through some things of mine.
Some things of yours. Most of these papers seem to bear Mrs. Appleby's name.
Well, yes, some of them are Mrs. Appleby's. I'm handling her affairs. I'm her manager.
Where is she now?
Who, Mrs. Appleby?
Yes?
Why, she's gone to San Diego.
Look at this, Cruchon.
Black glove, right-handed. Whose glove is this, Doctor?
Why, I guess it's mine.
Yeah? Try it on.
Very well. That's strange.
I could have told you it wouldn't fit. Come along. We're going to talk to the captain.
Without telling Dr. McMillan the reason for his arrest, Captain Bright questioned him for hours, during which he discovered that the doctor had met Mrs. Appleby at church, and that after they became fast friends, she employed him to handle her affairs. Then he veers the questioning to the doctor's professional background.
You have been practicing medicine in Los Angeles, Doctor?
No, I've been interested in real estate since I came out to the coast.
I see. Where have you practiced medicine?
Well, I was in St. Louis for a while, and then in Bobbin, Texas. I had a practice in Plantersville, Texas for 8 years.
And when did you come to Los Angeles?
About 4 years ago.
Done pretty well in the real estate business?
Oh, I can't complain. Things haven't been so good lately, though.
Is that the reason you killed Mrs. Appleby?
What?
Why did you kill Mrs. Appleby?
I didn't kill her. She's not dead.
Here's a picture of her body wrapped in a canvas sack as she was found in a wet field near San Fernando. You left her like this.
No, you must be mistaken, Captain. I can't believe that Mrs. Appleby is dead. I saw her only a few days before Christmas. She told me she was going to San Diego and asked me to be sure to rent her house for her. Oh, no, Captain. Mrs. Appleby isn't dead. She's in San Diego.
Well, perhaps you're right. We can make mistakes like other human beings.
Surely this is one of them, then.
I notice among the papers we found in your apartment this will in your favor made out by Mrs. Appleby on hotel stationery.
Yes, Mrs. Appleby gave me that as proof of my authority to handle her affairs.
Doesn't look like a very businesslike authorization to handle $1 million estate.
Well, that's the way Mrs. Appleby does things.
I see. Rather eccentric, eh?
Yes, I suppose you could call her that.
Where were you on Christmas Day, Doctor?
Christmas Day? Well, I took some presents to my wife in the morning.
Oh, your wife? Oh, you're married then?
Yes, but separated.
All right. Christmas presents in the morning. What did you do the rest of the day?
Well, I went to hear Bob Schuler preach in the evening. The rest of the day I spent in my apartment.
Well, I'm sorry I missed old Bob on Christmas myself. What did he preach about?
Talked about the firemen's football team and Mayor Cryer.
Did he read from notes as usual?
No, he spoke extemporaneously.
That's interesting, isn't it, Cruchon? Old Bob Schuler talking about the firemen's football team on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I got a kick out of that. I say, Captain, if you don't want me in here, I'll get out, get at the rest of that evidence on the Kokomoto case.
All right, Cruchon.
How's the quizzing going? Bill just trapped the doctor on the subject of Bob Schuler's sermon on Christmas. He gave me the office to check it.
Hello?
Reverend Schuler?
Speaking.
This is Deputy Cruchon of the Sheriff's Office, Reverend Schuler.
Yes? What can I do for you?
Do you remember the text of your sermon on Christmas?
Yes.
Did you talk about the firemen's football team and Mayor Cryer?
I certainly did not. I preached the story of the Nativity.
Well, I was just interested to know.
Say, what is this, a joke?
Oh, no. Checking a story of the suspect. He's trying to use you as an alibi. Thanks a lot, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, what's the dope?
One strike on the doctor.
Now, Dr. McMillan, did you and Mrs. Appleby...
That evidence doesn't seem to tally on that Kokomoto case, Captain.
I didn't think it would. Now, let's see. Where were we? Oh, yes. Dr. McMillan, did you and Mrs. Appleby always get along together?
Oh, yes. We were the best of friends.
Then why did you crush in her skull on Christmas morning?
I didn't.
You're positive you didn't kill Mrs. Appleby?
That's right.
But there's a bloodstain on your coat lapel right now.
I must have got that while I was shaving. You can see her on my cheek where I cut myself.
In the habit of shaving with your coat on? Perhaps you'd like to see the body of the woman you didn't kill.
Yes. I think that's the best way to end this unfortunate case of mistaken identity. I'm positive Mrs. Appleby is not dead.
To the mortuary in San Fernando, Captain Bright escorts his prisoner, there to inspect the body of the murder victim.
Well, Doctor, is this Mrs. Appleby?
It looks something like her.
You recognize this human claw, don't you?
No, I never saw that finger before. However, I am convinced that this is Mrs. Appleby.
And I'm convinced that you killed her.
There, my dear Captain, you are in error.
Back at headquarters, the baffled officers consider their case.
Well, boys, we've got a corpse, and we know whose it is. And we've got a reasonable suspicion of the identity of the murderer.
But our evidence against the doctor is all circumstantial.
Quite right, and insufficient to convict him.
Or for that matter, even to obtain an indictment.
What gets me is the fellow's calmness. He's too calm. An innocent person would be more flustered than he is. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a previous criminal record. Cruchon.
Yes, Captain.
Send his prints and mug to Washington for a check, will you?
Yes, sir. I'll take care of it.
Now, let's go over this evidence again. First, here's the sack.
We found canvas and a rope like that in the garage of Mrs. Appleby's house.
Which doesn't lead us anywhere, excepting to indicate that she was murdered in her own home. But have you noticed the knots with which the sack is tied?
What about them?
They're all the same. And I observed that the knots used to truss up the body were the same as these used on the sack. Any of you boys recognize this type of knot?
Maybe the murderer was a sailor.
The devil he was. These knots were the kind doctors use to tie sutures on wounds. I know. I went to medical school for a couple of terms.
The physicians now, eh?
Which brings us back to Dr. McMillan.
Right. And which is, again, purely circumstantial evidence. What's the next exhibit?
This pair of black gloves. We found the left-hand one in Mrs. Appleby's home. The right-hand one in the doctor's apartment.
Say, that reminds me of an interesting fact.
What's that?
Have you noticed that none of the friends and neighbors of Mrs. Appleby, even including the doctor, had ever observed that claw finger on her right hand?
That's right. And that's the one point on which we'd hoped to get an identification.
My guess would be that she wore gloves and always kept the deformity hidden.
So?
Suppose that there was a struggle. Mrs. Appleby ripped off a glove to fight the doctor off, to scratch him. He's got scratches on his face, if you remember, but he never got them shaving. And as I pointed out to him, it isn't customary to shave with your coat on.
But a scratched face would bleed onto the lapels of his coat.
Right.
So after the struggle, which resulted in Mrs. Appleby's murder, Dr. McMillan, looking around the room for damaging evidence, saw the glove, stuffed it into his pocket, took it to his apartment.
All very well, but still circumstantial. We need more than that. Cruchon.
Yes, sir?
You get those inquiries off regarding Dr. McMillan's record, if any. And in the meantime, the rest of you boys get busy rounding up friends of the doctor and of Mrs. Appleby and see what they have to say.
While the sheriff's office awaits a reply to their inquiry regarding Dr. McMillan's record, deputies are busy interrogating friends and neighbors of the murdered woman, while national publicity given the case by the press helps the work of the officers. Finally, Captain Bright interviews the doctor again.
Now, Dr. McMillan, I believe you told me that you and Mrs. Appleby got along very well together.
Oh, we did.
Now, several months ago, you two took a trip east, didn't you?
Yes, we went to Chicago to look over some of Mrs. Appleby's holdings.
And in Chicago, you stayed at an apartment managed by a Mrs. Carl Speece, didn't you?
Yes.
Mrs. Speece has written us, informing us that you quarreled frequently while there, and that on one occasion, Mrs. Appleby screamed for help, and Mrs. Speece was forced to unlock the door to go to her rescue. She states that she found Mrs. Appleby almost unconscious, and that you swore at her and left the room. Mrs. Speece said that Mrs. Appleby confided in her that she was in constant fear that you would kill her. What have you to say to this?
Mrs. Speece was jealous. I think she had a crush on me. What she says is not true. It's spite work.
Perhaps. Tell me, Doctor, have you ever been arrested?
No.
No? Recognize these papers?
No.
That's strange. They are your record from Leavenworth, where you were sentenced for selling narcotics while you were practicing medicine in Waco, Texas.
Well, I've forgotten about that.
Rather a convenient memory you have, Doctor. You came back from Chicago by way of the Yellowstone, didn't you, Doctor?
Yes. How did you know?
Oh, we have our ways of obtaining information. Did you have any disagreements with Mrs. Appleby while you were visiting the Yellowstone?
No.
You don't seem very positive.
The answer is no.
Not according to our information. It is a matter of record at the park ranger's office that you attacked Mrs. Appleby and would have choked her to death had not a couple of rangers interfered. What about that?
I have nothing to say.
Now, When did you last see Mrs. Appleby?
December 22nd.
You're positive about that?
Yes, positive.
Yet your photograph has been identified as that of a man seen on Mrs. Appleby's front porch on the day before Christmas, December 24th, arguing with her. A few moments later, you were seen walking toward the bus stop, while Mrs. Appleby followed you, loudly abusing you. Why, Dr. McMillan, we have the statements of half a dozen people to whom Mrs. Appleby has confided her fear that someday you would kill her for her money. You see, Doctor, your victim's hand, that hand so much like a claw, is stretching after you from the grave, reaching for you, clutching for its vengeance.
A pretty speech, Captain. But you can't scare me that way.
Well, what have you got to say? What do you think of the discrepancies in your story?
Well, I must admit it sounds pretty bad, but I didn't kill Mrs. Appleby.
We're convinced that you did, and we're going to see that you stand trial for her murder.
The evidence procured by Captain Bright and his men is sufficient to obtain an indictment from the grand jury charging Dr. McMillan with murder. But days and days of intensive work follow, during which the sheriff's office seeks to build their case so strong that the doctor cannot possibly beat them before the jury. On February 14, 1928, Dr. McMillan goes on trial before Judge Edmonds in Superior Court. Point by point, the prosecution breaks down the doctor's story.
You have testified, Dr. McMillan, that you have but one bank account in your name. Is that correct?
It is.
And perhaps you can explain to the court the existence of these 4 passbooks from 4 different banks in which you have deposited and from which you withdrawn large sums.
He told me Mrs. Appleby was going to San Diego.
He told me Mrs. Appleby had gone east.
Mrs. Appleby and I never had a serious quarrel.
I had to drag Dr. McMillan away from Mrs. Appleby when he was choking her to death in Yellowstone last summer.
She told me that they quarreled constantly and that she feared Dr. McMillan would kill her someday.
I attended the Trinity Methodist Church Christmas night, and the Reverend Schuler did not speak from notes.
I spoke from notes Christmas evening as I do at every service.
I'm a member of Trinity, and I know Dr. McMillan, but I'm positive he was not in church Christmas night.
I knew nothing of Mrs. Appleby's death until Captain Bright informed me that she had been murdered.
And how does it happen that arresting officers found in your pocket a newspaper clipping telling of the finding of her body?
Mrs. Appleby's alleged will, which grants Dr. McMillan power of attorney, is, in my opinion, a forgery and written in Dr. McMillan's own handwriting.
The last time I saw Mrs. Appleby was on December 22nd when she left for San Diego.
I saw them quarreling on the day before Christmas.
Yes, and I did too.
And so did I.
I was merely her business manager.
Yet these photostats of hotel registers prove that you posed as man and wife on your trip to Chicago.
No, I'm not a registered physician.
Yet you posed as one and practiced medicine in several towns in Texas.
I did not kill Mrs. Appleby.
That remains for the jury to decide. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have proven beyond doubt shadow that Dr. McMillan has studiously engineered a careful plot to gain control of the poor victim's estate, an estate worth nearly $1 million, a prize well worth any cost to an unscrupulous blackguard such as the defendant has shown himself to be. Terrorizing this poor woman, he slowly gained control of all of her affairs. And then, having no further use for his victim, he brutally murdered her, wrapped her body in a canvas sack, and tied the package with a damning trademark, a knot with which only physicians are acquainted. We have, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, provided you with the facts. You have the body, you have the motive, and we have shown you the killer. It is for you to decide the degree of his guilt, for in the minds of all of you there can be no question of innocence. This man has broken the ancient law. Thou shalt not kill. I invoke another ancient law. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask that you find the defendant guilty and recommend for him the penalty of death.
Dr. Charles M. McMillan, rise and face the court. Before I pass judgment on you, have you anything to say?
I am not guilty.
In the opinion of the jury, you have been found so. And in reviewing the evidence and the discrepancies in your defense, I concur with the opinion of the jury. There is no question in my mind but that the verdict of first-degree murder is a fair one. Therefore, I sentence you to be confined in San Quentin Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life. And furthermore, I recommend that no parole shall ever be granted you.
Although Dr. McMillan appealed his case, the court upheld the verdict of guilty, and Dr. McMillan was taken to Folsom Penitentiary, where he is still confined. He still refuses to confess his guilt, although there can be no question in the mind of any person who reads the evidence deputy sheriffs piled up against him. You will note in our dramatization of this case that we did not intimidate the doctor at any time. We did not use any third-degree methods or any rough stuff. We do not believe in hard-boiled tactics in the sheriff's office. It is not our business to convict criminals, and we never find it necessary to resort to brutality. We proceed in a businesslike way to gather evidence for use in the courts, and we are just as eager to get evidence which will free a suspect as to convict him if he is innocent. There are thousands of men behind prison walls today who thought they could beat the law, but our deputy sheriffs and other law enforcement officials uncovered evidence which brought punishment to everyone. You can't make crime pay.
Thank you, Sheriff Fiscaloo. Ladies and gentlemen, police cars make an ideal testing laboratory for gasoline. They use the same road you do, but drive them harder and faster. And they have proved, to the complete satisfaction of the biggest gasoline users in the West, that Rio Grande cracked gasoline is the most powerful, most economical, and speediest. When it comes to testing motor oils, well, you'll admit that any oil chosen by the United States Navy year after year is certainly the best money can buy. Yet for only 25 cents a quart, you can buy Sinclair motor oil in cans, the same oil your Navy uses, at Rio Grande service stations everywhere. So, you see, your neighborhood independent dealer offers you the best values of all: Rio Grande cracked gasoline and Sinclair motor oil, each proved best by the hardest possible test.
Calling all cars, attention all cars at Los Angeles Sheriff's Office. Cancellation of broadcast 86 regarding an unidentified murder victim. The body has been identified and murderer is now in custody. That's all. Rolls and questions.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company.